Okay, recording done. Okay, so the first question that we will start with for today's session is what is a tenant? I hope the screen is visible. So if is it visible?
Yes, Joy, it's visible.
Yes.
Yes, Joy.
Okay,
Yeah.
so if I say that this is uh, the M365 service, then what is a tenant?
So Jay, I would like to give answer in general terms. Is it okay, but not technical. Okay. So as per our last topic, Joy, so we can say that in Active Directory we call as a domain, forest, and something. But in it comes to Azure Active Directory, we don't use the terms like domain and forest. We use the tenant. So tenant is like
Mhm.
a umbrella where we can onboard our devices. So it belongs to specific uh, um, identity of the organization.
Mhm. Okay. So if this is M365 service as a whole, this entire box, then I can say if I am an organization and I want to avail this service, I will use a part of this service, right? This small box will be for me. I will be using a part of this service.
Yes.
Similarly, there will be other organizations in there also using the service because it's a multi-tenant service. So if I look into any of this, so it's basically like all of the other organizations, even Microsoft itself, is living as a tenant within the whole space. So we use the service, we pay a rent, which is the subscription charges, and that is how it works, right? It's not like the on-premises solutions where we purchase it for a lifetime and then continue to use it. Cloud services, we pay. So if I now look into this, any particular of this instance, they are all mutually exclusive of each other. So this one cannot access the data of this one. No, it cannot access that, right?
Correct.
Correct.
Similarly, no one can accept the data of other one. So if I look into one such instance of M365, then this instance, uh, let me make it bigger. So this instance is what we will call it as a tenant. So it's nothing but a specific instance of the Microsoft Cloud service that is owned by Microsoft, but managed and used by an organization. It represents a single organization and signifies the regional location that they houses the servers providing the cloud services. So if you look into a tenant, uh, just going back to this, if you look into the tenant, every tenant comes with the location, right?
Okay.
So this location specifies where this particular tenant is hosted. So as I said, like it's running in cloud does not means it's up in the cloud. It's running from some data center. So this particular tenant of mine is running from the Asia Pacific 0 to 01. uh, data center. So that is where it resolves. So it also gives the regional location of the tenant. So for example, if your office headquarter is in London, you won't be registering a tenant in America, right? You will be registering a tenant in Europe. So it signifies the presence of your organization as well. Now this is all good. So that is what a tenant is. Then what is a directory?
which contains the information of user groups, devices for a particular tenant.
So a tenant lives within a directory or a directory lives within a tenant?
Directory
So a
lives within.
tenant, yeah, please go.
Yeah, please continue, sir. S-
So a tenant represents an instance of Active Directory, Azure Active Directory.
No, a tenant represents an instance of the service.
Okay.
Tenant does not represents an instance of Azure Active Directory. Tenant Azure Active Directory is itself a service. So a directory lives within a tenant. Can a tenant have multiple directory? Uh, Can a tenant have multiple directory?
No, Joy, I think a tenant has only one directory.
Okay. So this directory represents an instance of what? Your Azure Active Directory services. So every tenant will have one Azure AD tenant. Sorry, every tenant will have an Azure AD instance attached to it. Now we take Azure AD, but we also take subscriptions. So where those subscriptions live? So I'm taking, let's say, EMS license or M365 license, or maybe even whatever, where those subscription lives.
It's part of a particular tenant.
Okay. So an instance of M365 that we are using is a tenant. It can be M365, it can be O365, it can be Exchange Online, it can be Azure Ready, any service that you are using is a tenant. For that tenant, you will have an Azure Ready instance to it, and that will serve as a directory for that particular tenant. Within that directory, you will have subscriptions. So currently, it's like for if your tenant has only uh, Azure Ready subscription, then it's entitled to use that only. Other than that, you will not be able to use any other services. But later on, you can go and add more subscriptions to your tenant. So today, if you have Azure AD subscription and tomorrow you want EMS subscription as well, you will not go ahead and create another tenant. You will just add another subscription within your directory, right?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
So This directory also uh, gives identity to your organization because this directory is represented by what? This directory is represented by what?
Resource group.
No, it's represented by domain.
Domain. Okay.
So you have the default domain, DD. What is the default domain?
At the rate of on
on
Microsoft.
cloud, on Microsoft.
On
Yeah,
Microsoft.
on
Yeah.
Microsoft.
And then you have custom domain, CD. You can add multiple domains in there if you own them. You have to verify. So this one is one. Just give me a minute. Uh, Whatever I told in here is clear for everyone, right?
Yes, Joe.
Yes, Joy.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if I take a subscription, what is like when we talked about Azure AD and we talked about that Azure AD sync thing. So we talked about that forest to Azure AD relation, like 1:1, 1:many, and things like that, right? So similarly, a single Azure AD instance, it's AAD, can have what? Multiple.
Multiple domains or 10.
This itself is a tenant.
Sorry, multiple domains.
Multiple domains it can have, but it will still be a single tenant because a domain identifies a tenant.
Right.
Yeah.
It can have multiple subscriptions. I can have EMS E5, EMS E3, M365 E5, M365 E3, M365 F3, and all other licenses in my tenant, right? A single tenant, a single directory can have multiple subscriptions. Similarly, a single tenant can also have a single subscription. This particular tenant does not need other subscription. It's as per the need of the organization, right? They don't use any other services. Why they will purchase all other subscriptions? This is there, but if I talk about a single subscription now, this is a subscription. Okay, this is not AD. If I talk about a single subscription, can a subscription be mapped to multiple tenants? Like a tenant can have multiple subscription, a tenant can have single subscription. Can multiple tenants have a single subscription?
Mm.
Don't think so.
Ye- Huh? This is tenant. Is this possible?
So one subscription equals to multiple tenant, you are saying, right?
No, I am saying, is this possible? Like, can a subscription be shared within tenants?
No, no, no,
No,
Joy, it
I
is not
don't think
possible.
so.
Yeah. So this
No.
relation is not possible, but these two are possible. A single tenant can have multiple subscription. A single tenant can also have a single subscription. But a single subscription cannot be shared within multiple tenants. So it's clear for everyone the fundamentals of tenant directory subscription domain.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So tell me the technical definition of, like, it does not have to be like a textbook definition. Whatever you understood, that is fine. Uh, what is the definition of a subscription? Question for
Yes.
you. Tell me.
So the technical term subscription is a subscription. Each subscription have a M365 service, Joy.
Okay.
So in order
But
to use the,
tenant
yeah,
is like tenant is a instance of an M365 service. What is the subscription?
Is a license like
yeah, it's a license. So to use the services, you need to have a subscription enrolled to it, so that the billing of the usage of the billing can be done via that subscription only.
Okay. Um, ठीक है. Uh, Correct. So basically, if I am a service provider, uh, and you want to use my service, uh, you will pay to me and use my service, and I will bill that to you or your organization. That is what a subscription is, right?
Yes, sir.
Uh, But say like I am a service provider and you want to use my service. We both agree that you can use my service. In exchange, you will give me this amount of money. Uh, what is required in between us so that tomorrow there won't be any problem between us in the say, like I cannot come to you and say that you are giving me less money, or you cannot come to me and say that I am not providing you the correct services. What
Hmm.
must be in
So
there?
there should be a service. So
Contract,
there should be a service level agreement,
agreement or contract. Hmm.
yeah, between the
Yep.
service provider and the organization. Yeah.
Yeah. So a subscription is the agreement. A subscription is the agreement with Microsoft to use one or more of its services. So whatever is there in the subscription, you pay for that and you use that. You won't go out and to, like, if you are taking a E3 license, you cannot go to Microsoft and say, hey, I am not able to do this because this particular feature is not there in my license. Microsoft will directly tell you to go and take the E5 license. The feature is in there, right?
Yeah.
So a subscription is an agreement with Microsoft to use one or more of the Microsoft cloud platforms or services for which charges will accrue. Um, a subscription can be it can be based on a per user license fee. It can be based on a per device license fee, or it can also be based on resource consumption. Where this resource consumption model comes in is it does not comes in any of the uh, SaaS services that Microsoft provides. So Exchange Online, SharePoint Online, Intune, M365, everything. It's a licensing model. You take a subscription for 50 licenses and you use that particular amount of thing. But in case of infrastructure as a service or platform as a service, typically like Azure resources where you are running virtual machines or say AVDs and things like that. It's a resource consumption model. So charging is done based on how much resources you have consumed. It's not a licensing model in case of Azure. So now we have this tenant, currently tenant XYZ has a E5 license, right? Say it has 50 E5 licenses, this particular tenant.
Okay.
Um, and it has purchased this, it has purchased, has done nothing else. Can say it has three users. This tenant has three users. Can this user start using the services?
User need
They
to be
need to be
assigned the
assigned.
license. Yeah,
So the
license.
user will need to be assigned a license each,
Yeah.
right? For them to access the services.
Yes.
Mm.
Then what is the definition of a license?
License gives you the privileges to use the features of that particular service. Let's say I assign you a Exchange Online Plan to license, so it will enable the feature of having 100 GB mailbox. So if I assign you a Microsoft Teams license, it will help you to access Microsoft Teams. So it gives you the privilege to use the service.
Mhm. So that is correct. A license is nothing but something that allows a user account to use the services that is entitled to the organization or to the tenant wide the subscription it has purchased. So like buying a subscription does not automatically makes the users of the organizations eligible to start using the services unless the license is explicitly added to the user accounts. Now, why I'm saying this? Has anyone ever seen a ticket where user comes in and says he is unable to enroll a device, and then you do all the troubleshooting, and at the end of the day you see the user account does not have a license? Anyone face this?
Yes, Joy, in the past. Yes.
Yeah.
We all started our troubleshooting journeys with this.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was basically everything about like basic understandings of tenant directory subscription license. So introductions done. I hope you all already have access to a Intune tenant to
Yes, Joy.
do your what to do practice or things like that. Everyone should have an access. If you don't have an access, you can just sign up for M365 developer program. uh, it's free. It gives you a tenant, a M365 E5 tenant for 90 days. Don't enjoy, like, don't get overjoyed that you will get a M365 real E5, because this does not contains a Windows E5 license. So you see Windows not included, so it's basically a M365 minus Windows. And you see this 90 days left, but the tenant remains valid for 90 days, but after 90 days it won't get expired automatically if you like have use your tenant. So within 90 days period, if you have even used your tenant for once, like even one device enrollment or maybe a policy creation, your tenant will get renewed for another 90 days. And that is how it works. So my tenant, basically this, what I show to you, is also a M365 developer tenant that I have been using since 2019. So it hasn't expired because I keep doing work on it, and it gets renewed every 90 days. So I have this developer subscription, which I said, without Windows. I also do have a Intune Suite FT. So this is from my MVP benefit that I get. That's for the premium suite, the other uh, things that are coming with Intune. And because I won't be able to test everything of E5 without having an actual Windows license. So this is a single license that I have purchased, added to the tenant, just to make it eligible for testing all those scenarios. So that's in there. Now, when we start with Intune, so we will start with the basics. This is um, how the portal looks like now. Uh, oh, uh, you all have used it, so I won't like spend much time in doing the navigations and doing things, but it's pretty self-explanatory. If you go into device, you get everything that is related to device apps. So similar tenant administration gives you details about your tenants and connectors and all those things that you need. But what I want to come to now is the basics of starting with Intune, and that basics leads me to uh, they have made a mess of this portal. Now they have put everything aside for different. Okay, so it's they have not. Okay, so first let's come to enrollment restrictions. Since we will be going into Apple, so we will come into this one. Let's come into this. What does this does? Device limit restriction.
To restrict the devices, to enroll by
Number
the
of
end user of
devices.
devices.
Can I have multiple limit sets?
For different
Mm,
users, group of
Mm-hmm.
users.
So all user, all devices, 15. I have that is the default. If I create a device limit now, say,
Yes, Joy, it is possible in the assignments. We can see that assignment column. So I can add different groups. over there.
so if I am in this particular group that I am assigned, so I am obviously also part of all users and all devices, right? But which one will take effect for me if I try to enroll a device?
so
First one,
priority.
admin
Okay.
only.
So in this way, I can create uh, multiple limit restrictions, and so for example, I can create another one. So, so there are two now. Can I change the order of priority? Like, say for example, I am part of this also, I am part of this also. And can I change this priority order? Like, can I make users priority one and admin only priority two?
Yes, you can.
Just
Just
drag
drag
it.
it.
Okay.
Yeah. Now there is another type of restriction that gets applied on the device during enrollment. What is that? So this was limit. There is another type of restriction that gets checked.
The voice platform.
The
Yes, the platform restrictions. So just like limit device limit restriction, here also I can create multiple one and change the priorities of them. So I'm not doing that, but if you go into here, you can see what all platforms that you are allowing or blocking. So if you allow work profile or you block that, you allow device administrator or you block that. uh, while you do that, you can also mention the minimum and the maximum OS version range that you would want to support. If you want to allow personally owned or if you do not want to allow personally owned. And then you have this device manufacturer. So uh, mm, so say uh, let since iOS there is no okay Android only it's possible. Say this is my current settings for Android Enterprise work profile. Uh, and I type in this in here. If I save this policy and now I try to enroll uh, Oppo device, what will happen?
Oppo will enroll.
How? In manufacturer, I am specifying that only Samsung is allowed.
Oh, okay, so this column is for the manufacturers you want to allow, not block. Okay,
Huh.
okay.
So if I want to allow Oppo as well, then I will have to add in that. Similarly, like this. So maybe Samsung, Oppo, what all, Vivo, uh, Motorola, and things like that. So you can have this only available for Androids. iOS, iPadOS, there is only single device manufacturer. Only Apple manufactures that. And Windows, there is like no manufacturer.
So how
Does
can I
Windows have a manufacturer?
Microsoft.
Microsoft is the creator of Windows. Does so like say I'm saying that Samsung is a manufacturer for an Android phone.
No. For
So
Android phone, yeah, but not for the OS,
why?
because OS is Google, right?
Hmm. But then like Android is Google. Android is not owned by Samsung. So why like for Android I have a manufacturer tab? Why for Windows I don't have a manufacturer tab? There's Lenovo, there's Dell, there's HP.
Right.
And this is not something that is related to like technically Intune. This is just because Lenovo, HP, Dell, or whatever that is, be it Fujitsu or Asus, things like that, they are not manufacturers. What are they?
They're OEM vendors.
Vendors.
They are assemblers.
Assemblers, yes.
OEM vendor, they become later, but at the first, they are assemblers. So if you like take your laptop, open the case, and you see inside. Say, for example, if I talk about the Lenovo thing, if you take it aside, you won't find anything that is there of Lenovo. The Lenovo logo and the badges, they are only on the outside case. You will see the hard drive is of Seagate or WD. You will see
Right.
the RAM is from something else. The screen is from someone else. So what they do is they take pieces and they assemble to form it as a computer and then sell it as a original equipment manufacturer. But they are not actually a manufacturer. They are not manufacturing anything other than that case. They are only manufacturing the case. The internal parts are all from different vendors. So that is why Windows do not have a manufacturer. Okay. So device limit, device platform restrictions done.
Just to add on one
Joy, I
thing
have a query. Yeah.
Hmm.
about the platform restriction, that's not applied for the AD enrollment. Means like if you blocking the minimum version or the maximum version, and
Mm-hmm.
AD enrollment is there with through the company portal, then it's overlapped and skip this validation or evaluation.
मैं समझा नहीं और एक बार बोलो फिर
जो ये एडी एनरोलमेंट होता है ना, उस पे ये
एडी
डिवाइस
एनरोलमेंट एडी एनरोलमेंट मतलब थोड़ा फुल फॉर्म बताओ
एडी ऑटोमेटिक डिवाइस एनरोलमेंट प्रोग्राम फॉर द previously it was known as DEP.
हाँ अच्छा अच्छा ठीक है हाँ एप्पल बिजनेस मैनेजर वाला हाँ
Yes. So this platform restriction is not allowed. I mean, it's not applicable. लाइक अगर हम लोग ने ये मिनिमम वर्जन सेट कर दिया 13.0, राइट,
हम्म,
तो अगर वो 12.0 या 13.0 वाला भी डिवाइस रहेगा वो ऑनबोर्ड कर देगा।
हाँ कर तो देगा, बट देन इसमें देयर इज दैट थिंग वेयर इंट्यून्स इंट्यून जो खुद का जो ओएस सपोर्ट है वो काम में आता है ना। लाइक इफ द करंट supported OS range for iOS of Intune starts from Android 13, even if ABM onboards a iOS 12 device, it won't get enrolled.
इनरोल हो जाएगा, बट प्रॉब्लम फिर आएगी कि एप्लीकेशन क्रैश होना चालू हो जाएगा,
हाँ
बिकॉज
तो वो सब,
लेकिन इनरोलमेंट, बिकॉज अभी एक रिक्वायरमेंट आया था
क्योंकि
हमारे पास।
iOS में तुम्हारा क्या है, N-2 है ना Intune का सपोर्ट।
यस,
मतलब अभी अगर 16 चल रहा
14
है
है।
तो देन 14 विल बी द मिनिमम वर्जन सपोर्टेड। मैं इधर पे 12 भी मेंशन करूँ तो उससे फायदा नहीं होगा।
करेक्ट है, राइट है, लेकिन क्या अभी यूजर क्लाइंट का रिक्वायरमेंट था कि उनके पास पुराने डिवाइस से विदाउट यूजर एफएनएटी दे वांट टू ऑनबोर्ड द डिवाइसेस, ओके। सो उनको कुछ साइन इन की जरूरत नहीं थी। तो लोग ने बोला कि नहीं, हमें यहाँ पर रेस्ट्रिक्शन नहीं रखना है, मिस हटाना है, और मिस ये इसको बाईपास होना चाहिए, ओके। सो हम लोग ने फिर वही नॉर्मल इनरोलमेंट करवा के दिया उसको ईडी का, एंड दैट वर्क्स फाइन फॉर सर्टेन एप्लीकेशंस। तो दिस
मतलब
शुड
यहाँ
बी,
पर
User,
फिर
yeah, for userless scenarios, there are some things that can be overlooked. So, for example, uh, एंड्रॉयड डिवाइस एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर के केस में भी कंपनी पोर्टल का सपोर्ट अभी तुम्हारा वो आई
हट गया है।
थिंक इट्स नॉट अवेलेबल आफ्टर एंड्रॉयड 10।
यस,
एंड्रॉयड 10 मिनिमम वर्जन है सपोर्टेड फॉर एंड्रॉयड डिवाइस एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर, बट एंड्रॉयड 10 में फायदा नहीं है क्योंकि उसमें तो ऑलरेडी डिवाइस एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर एपीआईज आर डेप्रिकेटेड।
डेफिनेटली, यस।
बट तुमको किस केस में वो सिनेरियोज आ जाता है, इफ यू स्टिल डू लाइक एंड्रॉयड 7 भी अभी भी एनरोल करोगे, it will get enrolled using device administrator mode, um, because of the exclusion that Intune has for Teams devices, क्योंकि Teams device वो backdated Android पे चलता है। तो अभी उस टाइम पे वो पता नहीं, तो ये सारे थोड़े बहुत है, बट मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम दिस, नहीं मेरा, the motive behind me showing this enrollment restrictions and limit restrictions is like if like you should be knowing about this, because जब ट्रबल शूटिंग करने आए कि एनरोलमेंट फेलियर हो रहा है, दिस इज एन इम्पोर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट टू चेक। वी कैन नॉट स्किप दिस पार्ट कि यूजर को एनरोलमेंट फेलियर आ रहा है तो इज द यूजर इवन एलिजिबल टू डू एन एनरोलमेंट। फर्स्ट चेक ऑब्वियसली उसका लाइसेंस से होता है, सेकंड चेक होता है कि लाइक प्लेटफॉर्म रेस्ट्रिक्शन है कि कोई लिमिट रेस्ट्रिक्शन है कि वो चेक करें, राइट। इसके बाद इंट्यून के और एक इम्पोर्टेंट बेसिक चीज है, वो कौन सा है?
कंप्लायंस पॉलिसी।
नहीं, वो तो एनरोल होने के बाद आएगा।
हाँ जॉय, मुझे ये एनरोलमेंट में एक क्वेरी था। तो आपने जो ये दिखाया कि मतलब ये क्या बोल सकते हैं, ये जो प्लेटफॉर्म रेस्ट्रिक्शन या डिवाइस लिमिट रेस्ट्रिक्शन आपने 5 वहां पर दिया है, ठीक है,
हम्म
और यहाँ पर आपने 2-3 प्लेटफॉर्म को अलाउ किया है, तो मतलब सब
हम्म
कुछ मिला के मैं 5 ही अचीव कर पाऊंगा? मतलब अगर iOS एंड आईपैड है और पकड़ लीजिए कि एंड्रॉयड भी है, तो मेरे
हम्म
पास अगर 5
नहीं,
एंड्रॉयड फोन।
ऑल
हाँ,
डिवाइसेस कंबाइंड यू विल हैव दैट लिमिट।
अच्छा
विंडोज
अच्छा।
आईओएस, विंडोज आईओएस, आईपैड ओएस, मैक ओएस,
हम्म,
एंड्रॉयड एंड नाउ इवन लिनक्स।
अच्छा, तो सब कुछ मिला के मतलब वो 5
हाँ,
से हम लोग क्रॉस नहीं कर पाएंगे, राइट?
नहीं, yeah.
अच्छा, और
It's
यहाँ पर जो
not
आपने
key
बोला,
like I have
हाँ,
set a limit of five. It's not that
हम्म,
five is per platform. Means I can have five Android, five iOS, five Windows. It's not like that. Total device count should be five. Be it Windows, Linux, Mac, iOS, iPadOS, Android, iPhone.
ठीक है जो है। और बोल रहा था कि आपने जो वो बोला कि सैमसंग या ओप्पो, ऐसा करके हम लोग डिवाइस रिस्ट्रिक्ट कर सकते हैं, वो ऑप्शन कहाँ पर होता है?
Platform restrictions में आते हैं. But you will get that only for Samsungs. Only for क्या बोल रहा हूँ? You will get that only for Android. Uh, Device platform restrictions. When you go into or edit a restriction or create a restriction, you will get the manufacturer tab only for Android. And you can specify which manufacturer you want to allow.
This is for allow or blocked. If you go back, Joy, there it was saying block manufacturers.
देखो पहले तो ये अलाउ का होता था. अभी
नहीं,
अगर
आप
ये लोग
एक
ने
स्टेप
चेंज
बैक
किया है
जाओ,
तो
मैं
मैंने
तभी
चेक
कंफ्यूज
नहीं
हुआ।
किया है.
आप एक स्टेप बैक जाओ बस। किसको अ,
You
इस
can
इस
drag.
पे नहीं नहीं, इसको एडिट करो, ये डिफॉल्ट वाले
इसको
को।
एडिट करो. ओके.
अभी प्रॉपर्टीज में जाओ इसके, वो देखो ब्लॉक मैन्युफैक्चरर्स,
Manufacturer.
राइट।
ओके. हाँ
तो वही जब आपने क्वेश्चन पूछा था ना सैमसंग वाला, तो आपने ओप्पो का जाओ,
हाँ हाँ हाँ.
राइट,
नहीं.
वो उल्टा हो
हाँ
गया ना।
नहीं, ये लोग ने चेंज किया. तो पहले एंड पॉइंट मैनेजर जो पोर्टल था उसमें अलाउड मैन्युफैक्चरर्स था.
ओके।
हाँ तो सी, दिस इज व्हाई यू शुड पे अटेंशन. हाँ दिस इज वेरी गुड शिवम. जब इंट्यून पे काम करते हो हर महीने न्यू रिलीज निकलता है.
राइट राइट।
सो यू हैव टू पे अटेंशन टू व्हाट यू आर डूइंग. और उसमें चेक. मेरे जैसे पुराने नॉलेज लेके बैठे नहीं रहना. बट इट्स ओके.
So, John, one more question. So, Azure AD so we have a device limit restrictions, right? So, if I configure an Azure AD, device limit restrictions, and if I configure the same device restrictions in the Intune portal, okay, on this Intune portal, so which settings will be precise? I mean, which settings will be applied on the Android or iOS and Windows devices, right?
See, when you are enrolling a device, if it's a user enrollment, there will be a device object in Intune and there will be a device object in Azure AD.
Correct.
Whatever limit is there in Intune will apply on the device object that is there in Intune. Whatever limit is there in Azure AD will apply to the device object in Azure AD.
Okay.
Okay. But if
Okay.
you are doing a userless enrollment, there will be no device object in Azure AD. Normally क्या होता है? Intune device limit we keep in 5 because that is the maximum number of devices on which you can use Office applications simultaneously. But in Azure AD, we either keep it to like 50 or 100 or maybe unlimited because see, not every device needs to come to Intune. There will be in Azure AD, you will find devices that are not there in Intune. If I'm doing a like workplace registration in the concept of Windows, without managing the device with an MDM solution, the device remains in Azure AD but never comes to Intune.
Okay.
But in this case, for example, this is a very good question also. But say, for example, I have a device limit set to 5 in Intune and I have a device limit set to 3 in Azure AD. For example, just for example, say I have this. Intune, I have 3 user enrolled devices. So my Azure AD limit is already met. Because in Intune I have three devices, in Azure AD also I have three devices.
Okay.
If I try to enroll the fourth device, there will be no blocking from Intune because the Intune limit is not met. Intune still will allow you to enroll two more devices as per the limit. But for the enrollment to happen, if it's a with user enrollment, the device also needs to go ahead in Azure AD and create a device object where Azure AD will restrict it and your enrollment will fail.
Okay.
So that is how you do it. But in mostly Intune is where you will have the stricter limit of 5 devices, whereas in Azure AD, uh, you will have 50, 100 or unlimited because we don't care about that. And that is the reason why you will see many organizations where there is only 30,000 devices in Intune. Azure AD may contain even 1 lakh to 2 lakh device objects. Because many of those device objects may be stale entries or maybe uh, they connected to Exchange or they logged into office365.com on a device. That also makes a Azure AD device object.
So is it a best practice to give any device limit in Azure AD also, Joy? Like to avoid duplicate or stale records in the Azure AD?
It's a best practice to run a cleanup on Azure AD every year.
Okay.
Now, how do you run a cleanup? Intune has a device cleanup rule. Azure AD does not have a device cleanup rule. So you will have to export or like you will have to automate that. You will have to have automation that will compare all the device objects as per their last sign in or last activity date. And if that activity date is more than 3 months ago, then it is safe to like assume that that device is not going to connect back again. And then you clean that up.
Okay.
तो Joy, Azure AD लिमिट restriction versus Intune का जो डिवाइस restriction है, तो वहां पर जब आई एम जस्ट enrolling the fourth or the fifth device, so it will get enrolled in Intune, right?
समझा नहीं और एक बार.
मतलब Intune restriction if I have 5 and AAD limit restriction let's say I have 3. ठीक है, तो if I am just enrolling the fourth and the fifth device, so it will get enrolled in Intune.
If I'm just enrolling the
आपका आवाज नहीं आ रहा है.
मैं ये समझा इंट्यून पे डिवाइस लिमिट 5 है, एज्योर एडी पे
हम्म,
डिवाइस लिमिट 3 है. इसके बाद क्या बोले?
हाँ, इसके बाद बोल रहा हूँ कि अगर मैं फोर्थ तो 3 डिवाइस तो मैं एनरोल कर ही सकता हूँ.
अच्छा,
अगर
फोर्थ
फोर्थ एंड
डिवाइस. हाँ,
हाँ
इफ यू ट्राई टू डू अ फोर्थ एनरोलमेंट और अ फिफ्थ एनरोलमेंट, फोर्थ एनरोलमेंट ही पकड़ लेते हैं. इफ दैट इज अ विथ यूजर एफिनिटी डिवाइस, देन दैट एनरोलमेंट वोंट हैपन. You will get a failure. If that is a without user affinity enrollment, then that enrollment will go fine. The reason being, for a user affinity device, the enrollment into Intune also creates an Azure AD device object. And your Azure AD device limit is already met, so it cannot create the Azure AD device object, so the Intune enrollment will also fail. Why and how that will fail, I will show you when we get into the enrollment section. But अभी यही है कि अगर विथ यूजर एफिनिटी है एंड योर Azure AD device limit is met, that enrollment you cannot continue with. Userless device है तो you will be able to do it.
So userless is nothing but a Joy that is from auto enrollment process, right?
uh, userless is from auto enrollment process.
Like how
Yes, for iOS, it will be your
Apple Business Manager.
automated device enrollment without user affinity. For Android Enterprise, it will be uh, Android Enterprise, it will be this one.
Token
Whatever
based.
you are doing in this dedicated devices space.
Okay, token kiosk device.
Uh, yeah, kiosk devices. So, corporate on dedicated devices. Corporate. Okay, here also you will only be able to do it. This one, the corporate on dedicated device default. You won't be able to do this corporate on dedicated device with Azure AD shared mode because this will again create a Azure AD device object.
Okay.
So that will go through Windows. For Windows, you can do the self deployment of autopilot. And this brings me to the next important thing in Intune, that is this one.
Yeah.
What is this? No, before this one. Let's talk about this. What is a corporate device identifier?
So this is used for uh, iOS devices or iPadOS. You can upload a CVV to change their ownership.
Why, like it's only for iOS? Like why can't they have Android?
This is limited to I think iPad and iOS and iPadOS. No, for sorry, for Android. Uh, yeah, for Android using IMEI number, there was some issue. There is some issue with the serial numbers. I read it is not same.
Okay.
For
Okay. So
fully
corporate device
managed.
identifiers is basically uh it's something to pre-declare devices that these devices are like corporate devices. So Intune should treat them as corporate devices. Uh, this is used to have devices marked as corporate when we are not using a real corporate enrollment scheme. So a device coming from Autopilot, a device coming from Apple Business Manager, a device coming from uh, uh, Google Zero Touch, they are already automatically or for that example Knox, Samsung Knox solution, they are automatically tagged as corporate devices. Now if we are in the position of not being able to use any of these solutions, but still we want our devices to be tagged as corporate, it is not possible that I will go into the portal and then manually convert each device to ownership from personal to corporate. Neither it is feasible to do it from PowerShell, right? So we can set this up to pre-declare, like I purchase, say for example, I purchase 1,000 Android devices. I upload their IMEI numbers to Intune. So that is how I'm telling Intune pre-declaring that this 1,000 devices, when they enroll, you should treat them as corporate. Whatever is not there within these 1,000 devices, you can treat them as personal if they are not coming from a corporate enrollment scheme. So that is what, but then there is a problem for Android. So iOS device, iPadOS devices works on serial numbers, but Android serial numbers does not work. So they work on IMEI number. But then there is also a problem with IMEI. Tell me the scenario.
Like for multiple SIMs, right? If
Yes,
a
Androids
device
are
has
mostly dual SIMs.
dual
So
SIMs.
there are two IMEI numbers. So Intune reads which one?
First one.
Yep. So if you add the second IMEI number of the device, Intune will not care about that because it only cares about the first IMEI number. So this is corporate device identifier and then device enrollment manager. What is this?
Them is a non-administrator user account to enroll the devices. So bulk of enrollment process.
Up to 1,000 devices.
Yes.
These devices are with user affinity devices or without user affinity devices.
So without user affinity devices.
Okay. So device enrollment manager, like it's correctly said, it's a special, it's a privilege that is added to any normal user account, which that enables that user account to perform enrollment for like Windows, Android device administrator and iOS devices. It can enroll 1,000 devices. Android enterprise work profile, it can enroll 10 devices. So basically, this particular privilege was there when without user affinity enrollment schemes were not yet uh, out. So when device enrollment manager came out, it was from the very beginning of Intune. At those point of time, the Apple Business Manager DEP without user affinity and this Android device, Android dedicated device, Windows self deployment, these options were not there. So at that point of time, if you would want to have a device act as a kiosk device, then you would have needed to use the device enrollment manager account. बट अभी इसका कोई यूज है नहीं, मोस्टली इसका यूज नहीं है. इवन माइक्रोसॉफ्ट बेस्ट प्रैक्टिस टेल्स दैट नॉट टू यूज डेम अकाउंट्स because you do have other options to do without user affinity enrollments. So how many DAM accounts a tenant can have?
150.
150.
Okay. Uh, say my account have a DEM privilege and I enroll devices. Can I also remove those devices from the management?
So some limitations are there for them account. Let me join. So so we can remove the device from the company portal, I hope, but not from the Intune portal.
You don't like DEM account doesn't need any license, so I don't think it will be able to remove.
Why a DEM account does not need a license?
It's need a license. It's required a
Not a
license for that.
license, sorry, that is that role I meant, not the license.
Okay. So if I have a DEM privilege, my account becomes a DEM account. I can go on enrolling devices, but I cannot remove the devices from enrollment that I have enrolled. Only a Intune administrator from the Intune portal can delete the device.
Right.
I won't be able to go ahead and delete the device myself, even if I sign into the Intune portal with my account. So we will okay. Then we cannot target VPP user licensed application to a DM enrolled iOS device, so it will not work. Why? Hello, one, two, three.
Yes, sir.
I'm saying that you cannot target a VPP user licensed application to a DEM enrolled iOS device. Why?
So each BPP, like volume purchase program, liquid user license, Joy. So DM account, we're not using user affinity devices. Is my
Okay,
understanding.
that is correct. So DEM account is again not supported with Apple automated device enrollment with user affinity programs. It is not supported with Android enterprise corporate enrollment programs like that dedicated device, fully managed device, and fully managed with personal profile and all those. Uh, DEM enrolled devices are also not subjected to compliance evaluation. So if you have conditional access policy that requires a device to be compliant to get access to a service, those devices will get blocked. And that is all. That is all the frequent
ये लास्ट
facts
वाला
about
समझा
it.
नहीं, ये जॉय ये लास्ट वाला समझा नहीं जो आपने बोला कि कंडीशनल एक्सेस पॉलिसी अगर रहता है कि द iOS लेट्स से द iOS डिवाइस नीड्स टू बी कंप्लायंट इन ऑर्डर टू एक्सेस दी अप्रूव्ड एप्स, ठीक है, तो उसमें
Hmm.
डीएम से अगर कोई एनरोलमेंट करेगा विदाउट मतलब यूजर एफिनिटी, अगर कोई ऐसा डिवाइस अगर एनरोल करता है डीएम, तो उसको एनरोल करने नहीं देगा।
नहीं एनरोल करने नहीं देगा नहीं एनरोल तो डिवाइस हो जाएगा बट दैट डिवाइस इज नॉट इवेलुएटेड फॉर कंप्लायंस
ऐसा क्यों है?
because compliance is only for with user affinity device. Userless devices are not subject to compliance policy.
अच्छा, तो मतलब कंप्लाइंस पॉलिसी में मतलब तो फिर मतलब वो डिवाइस से आई विल बी एबल टू एक्सेस द एप्स इवन इफ इट इज having let's say a lower version of the OS which is supported in the compliance policy, even if
No,
I'm having an
userless devices are not subjected to compliance evaluation. This is first point. And if you have a conditional access policies that requires your device needs to be compliant, then all userless devices will get blocked. That is the reason userless devices are treated as a kiosk device because they do not need to contact with a backend service mostly because why a compliance is not evaluated for a non-userless device. How many types of compliance are there? So if I say that a device is non-compliant or a device is compliant, a device is subjected to how many compliance policy?
Two compliance policy, one is built-in compliance and one is customized.
Hmm. So it can have more than actually two compliance policy. One is the built-in compliance and one or more custom compliance policies that we create. And one of the important criteria of the built-in compliance policy is what?
Enrolled user exists.
Yes. So compliance policy is only applicable for a user device. A userless device does not have this component, so compliance policy never applies on a non-user non-user device. So
So
if you have userless devices, the compliance tab for those devices will show as not applicable.
okay, custom wali bhi compliance policy will not be applicable on that.
No. Device first gets evaluated with the built-in compliance and then it gets evaluated with any
Okay.
custom compliance that is created for the platform. If the built-in compliance is itself skipped, then the entire device is marked exempted from compliance evaluation. That is why it comes up as not applicable.
Mhm, got
Okay, so ये था. Next is uh, 1 minute. Uh, so we will now start with how Intune works. So Microsoft Intune is like a device management server, and there the device is on the other side. So how does the device management server connects and communicates with the device? So the device must have some OS functionality via which it will be able to communicate with the device management server. These OS functionalities are called nothing but the APIs that exposes the management capabilities of the device. And these APIs are what the company portal plugs into. And then the company portal and the device management server talks with each other. That is over HTTPS, and that is how the devices communicate with the Intune. The protocol that is used is OMA Open Mobile Alliance Device Management Protocol, and the messages that are exchanged between Intune and the company portal are all syncML. So it's a form of XML defined as syncML. So that is how the devices communicate. So from this picture, we can see that company portal is important for Intune to be able to manage a device. Then why does can anyone tell me why does Windows does not request company portal?
So there is a one service, it will install Microsoft Intune extension
IME,
manager.
Intune management extension.
Extension.
But Intune management extension only helps to run PowerShell scripts and Win32 applications, and later some added functionality, health scripts and all those things. But device management, Intune management extension does not comes in.
The OS itself having the OS that OMA protocol inbuilt. That is why the company portal application or the broker application is not needed. There's one services called device management wireless application protocol, so that this service or alignment can be initiated or established.
Yes. So mobile devices, be it Androids or iOS, they already have a device management client implemented as part of the OEM image on the device. So your Android and your iPhones, they already have a DM client on the device. But that particular DM client is hardwired to the manufacturer, to the OEM manufacturer. That is how you get updates from your manufacturer. Like Samsung pushes the security updates, Apple also pushes updates to the device. How does it works? If Apple has to push a update, it also needs to have a device management server. So it already has a client. Microsoft Intune for an Android or a iOS device is a third party service. It cannot go ahead and access the DM client on the device that is already in there. So it needs a separate client on the device to manage those devices, and that is where company portal comes in. But in case of Windows, Windows is an operating system that was created by Microsoft and it was created from scratch to be cloud managed. That is the reason why it does not need a separate management client running on the device. That is why it's a clientless management with Microsoft Intune. But if you remember Windows 7, and if you have worked with Intune earlier, there used to be a Windows management agent from Intune to support the down level devices, which are Windows 7 devices, because Windows 7 didn't have the OMADM client built in. Because Windows 7, Windows XP, they were when they were built, System Center Configuration Manager was the one that was more managing those devices, and SCCM already have an agent. But from Windows 10, when Microsoft started moving to cloud, they knew that they will build it with the client itself, so that is why it does not require it. Okay, so this is how Intune works in terms of a mobile device. If was a Windows device, the company portal gets out of the context. Uh, but since we will be starting with mobile, so we need to know the functionalities that the company portal serves. So one is it serves as the DM client, that is for the management. What are the other purposes that the company portal serves?
So application deployment,
Okay,
and it will use to sync the policies from the Intune, and also to gather the logs.
okay, fine. So first it provides guided enrollment. It is with company portal that you start enrolling the device. Without this company portal, there is no way you can start enroll a mobile device to Intune. Then obviously it serves as the company application store, so you can have your applications made available to the users via company portal, either as required or available. It also helps you to do some device tasks, like you can do device rename, you can do device reset, you can sync, you can do remote management from the company portal. It also helps in the compliance check and remediation. And if you have self-service password reset enabled in Azure AD, then company portal, from within company portal, you can also do a SSPR. And last but not the least, from company portal, you also get the help plus support, which basically generates the log of the device and uploads it to Microsoft. So these are all the functionalities that company portal serves.
So, Joy, here one is a out of box question. Like it comes to help and support, Joy. So when we click on send the diagnosed data to Microsoft, so
Hmm.
is it only Microsoft is only can accessible, or we can able to access for that specific logs?
Previously, the logs were accessible, they were not directly uploaded to Microsoft. The logs were saved on the device on a location. You needed to go and get those log files, zip it, and then upload it to the Microsoft support case. that they provided to you. But going through the logs, many started to debug it in a way that how the service works got clear. And see, like Intune is a proprietary service for Microsoft. They won't want that how it works becomes visible to the competitors, right?
Yes.
So that is why they changed the logging mechanism, and now when you click on help and support, the log directly gets uploaded to Microsoft. It generates a ID. You have to tell the Microsoft support person the ID and they can retrieve it from their end. So this is just to stop because the log had a lot of infos of how the device is enrolling, how the device is talking with the endpoints, and things like that. So those are all Microsoft proprietary informations which Microsoft didn't want others to see.
Okay, thanks.
But when we go through the enrollment, I will tell you how it actually works because I have seen those logs. So this is all about company portal. Um, shall we take a break for 5 minutes? Because after it, we will start with directly Apple.
Yes, sir. Yeah, fine.
Sure, Joy.
Sure.
So 5 minutes smoke break. Come back soon. And those who don't smoke, stay on the call. Who all are there on call?
Yes, Joy, I'm there.
Yep.
Abhijit, Shivam, Saurav and Ramesh went.
I,
No, no, I'm here.
Acha,
I don't smoke.
Saurav is also here. Ramesh, this proves who a smoker is. But I know Abhijit also smokes.
Yeah, I'm not smoking because I'm also down with fever. Having
Okay.
101 fever today.
Okay.
जो है आपने पहला दो रिकॉर्डिंग शेयर किया था क्या
Mm,
पहले दो
I
क्लासेस का
अच्छा याद दिलाए. Wait.
एक शेयर किया था शायद आपने
नहीं, मुझे तो उससे वो आ गया था. Either I have pasted the link on the chat. Uh, you will go and download it from there.
Okay, Joy.
Because I tried sharing it with email, but it gave a bounce back that postmaster could not deliver your email. So you should be able to go and download it. And if you have problems, let me know because this is the same folder that I will use to upload all the further recordings as well. Ramesh is back.
Yes, sir. Yes, Joy. I'm there.
Okay. So we will start with iOS and iPad OS. Basically, managing both the devices is same thing. Now to first start managing an Apple device, what is it that we need
The MDM push certificate.
and what purpose does that solves? What is the service? The MDM push certificate is used for which service?
So Apple MDM, so to authenticate, Joy.
Apple push notification services. So before we start with managing an Apple device, we need to understand the role of the Apple push notification services. So if we consider Microsoft Intune as the device management service, then what we already know is that it uses company portal to communicate and manage the end device. So this is how the simple communication flow happens, right? Intune will contact a company portal that is present on the device, and then company portal will utilize the underlying OS functionality, which is the APIs, and implement the policies and manage things on the device. Correct?
right.
Wrong.
Okay.
Microsoft Intune cannot directly reach out to company portal on the device. To do that, if Microsoft Intune wants to like communicate with the device, it will first have to reach out to the Apple push notification services. The Apple push notification service will generate a push notification to company portal. Company portal will then initiate a communication with Microsoft Intune, and Microsoft Intune will then send the instructions out to company portal. And then after receiving the instructions from company portal, the company portal will go ahead and enforce those at the device level. That is how the communication works. So why does we need to configure Apple push notification certificate in Intune? Is because
अच्छा जॉय ये थोड़ा और एक बार डायग्राम समझाएंगे थोड़ा इसका मिस कर गया मैं
simple, if we look into the aspect of managing an Apple device, it seems that using the DM client on the device, that is the company portal, Microsoft Intune manages the device. So Microsoft Intune will reach out to company portal. Company portal will then uh, implement the instructions on the device to get the desired result. But this is not how the communication works. Intune cannot directly reach out to company portal on a device. In order to reach the company portal on the device, it has to first reach out to Apple push notification services. The Apple push notification services will generate a push notification to company portal. This push notification tells company portal on the device to go and initiate a device management session with your device management server. So company portal will reach out to Intune. Intune will then send the instructions to company portal. If it's a policy or if it's an app or if it's compliance, whatever that is, it will send the instruction, and company portal will get those instructions carried out on the device using the underlying OS APIs. So that is how the communication happens. So why do I need to configure an APNS certificate in Intune? Is because it uses the Apple push notification service to communicate securely with the enrolled iOS devices, and Apple requests that each MDM service utilize their own certificate to establish a secure mechanism for the device when communicating on the push notification messaging network. Without APNS certificates, devices cannot be enrolled or managed by Intune. यही केस
so it is
सेम
for only iOS devices
iOS, iPadOS, macOS, any Apple device. So how long is the APNS certificate valid?
1 year
365 days.
Yeah. So it is valid for 365 days. So what will happen if you do not renew the certificate?
User has to unenroll and re-enroll the device.
Correct. So if you renew your certificate within the expiry period, you do not have to unenroll your existing devices. But if your APNS certificate expires, then does so if your APNS certificate expires, will your existing devices in a state of stop being managed?
So as per
Yes,
your
stop.
PPT,
As per yes, stop managing. However, they can use their services on their mobile devices.
Okay. So the thing is like if your APNS certificate expires, uh, the devices that were enrolled using those APNS certificate, that APNS certificate that was expired, the devices will still continue to be managed. So the devices will come up as enrolled. The devices will still be evaluated for compliance. The only thing is that after the APNS certificate has expired, if you have made any changes to the profiles or policies, or if you create a new policy or if you create a new application, those policy changes will not take effect on those existing devices. To have those working again, you will have to unenroll and re-enroll. So that is why if you renew the certificate within the expiry period, the certificate does not change. So you do not need to unenroll and re-enroll your devices back. But if the certificate expires and it is outside the grace period that Apple offers even after the expiry, then if you again want to re-establish the connection, you will get a new certificate, and because of this new certificate, you will be forced to unenroll and re-enroll the existing Intune managed iOS devices. So again on the same line, so like should you renew the APNS certificate or should you get a new one? The answer is same. Like if you get a new one, you will have to unenroll and re-enroll your existing devices. So that is never something that is desired. That is why companies take a note of when the certificate is expiring and they go ahead and renew the certificates. And can you change the Apple ID for the existing APNS certificate? As a user, I cannot. But if you raise a support ticket with Apple, they may be able to help you. Uh, for example,
So, Joy, here the question, right? Last topic regarding Apple ID. Okay, so
mhm,
in the past 3 years back, Joy, okay, there is a one customer having this issue. So one customer, so they created Apple APN certificate with the one Apple ID. Okay, so the employee was uh, he resigned from the organization, so no one knows which how which Apple ID they created that. I mean, we know the Apple ID, but we're unable. Once he left the organization, no one able to renew the certificate. Okay,
mhm.
so in this scenario, Joy, like no one knows. We know only Apple ID, but we don't know the what credential he used, the password. So still, we can create a Apple ID support ticket to retrieve those details. Correct?
Uh, if the certificate has expired, then like anyways, you will have to create a new one.
Okay,
Like
within a grace
for
period.
for
Like if in grace
within the
period.
grace period, yes, you can raise a support ticket to Apple, explain the situation that the employee has left, and we do not have access to the credentials, so they can help change the Apple ID
Okay.
associated with that, and you can log in and get a new certificate. But for this student, if you see, like I haven't worked with iOS, iPadOS for a long time, so the certificate has expired, and it expired 104 days ago.
Okay.
So there is no way that I'm getting back this particular certificate. I have to create a new one. So how do you create a new one is basically the process is simple. Uh, you download a CSR, which is certificate sign-in request, and then you click on the create your MDM push certificate, uh, and it will ask you to sign in with your Apple ID. Uh, where did it come? No, so 0. and you sign into the APNS portal and you see all the certificates that you have previously created, right?
Okay.
With this particular Apple ID that you logged in with, whatever certificates that you have created, you can see those listed in here. So what you will do is, because I do not have anyone that is in the renew stage, I cannot renew them. I will have to create a certificate, and here I have to read and agree to the terms and conditions. No one reads this. You click on accept. You have to upload the CSR that you just downloaded from the Intune portal, and you get a push notification like the Apple certificate from here. You can click on download. It gives you the certificate file,
Fine.
and then you go back to the Intune portal. You mention the Apple ID that you have used to get that certificate. A best practice of using this Apple ID is uh, you should have a functional account, like a group managed account that is not personal to any employee.
Okay.
And you upload the certificate you just downloaded, and you complete the process. The ID does not match the existing certificate. Why didn't I log in with this same?
So do we need to delete the complete APN certificate from the engine?
No, you don't
That
delete
will,
a certificate from Intune. It will go
uh,
expired.
okay.
Sub. Okay, wait. Let me see. The subject ID is this one. The serial number of the certificate ends with B323. Okay, manage certificates. And if I go into here, oh, wait. This one is currently active. This is the one that I just downloaded. This one is BB323. BB323. So this one was the certificate that got expired. But I just created this certificate, which I downloaded. Let me download it once more. Back to here. Apple ID same. Ah, so say if your certificate has got expired, you click on delete first. If it's not in grace period, you cannot renew it either ways. You click on delete and then upload the certificate in here.
Okay.
So once your certificate is in here, okay, wait, let me delete this again. Just to show you this one. Without the Apple push notification certificate configured, you do not have any of the enrollment methods for Apple available to you. All of those methods are grayed out. So at this moment, this tenant cannot accept any Apple device. Only when you have a push notification certificate installed is when your enrollment methods become available and you can start enrolling Apple devices to the portal, right? So how do you, for this particular portion, now my certificate was expired, so I deleted, I created a new certificate, I got in here. But if any of the certificate was in grace period or it was possible to renew it, and you have multiple of certificates in here, how will you know which certificate to renew?
Depends upon the expiry date also, and
Now, say for example, you have multiple certificates which are in the status of expiring. You have
I,
for example, you have three certificates currently. Consider you have three certificates currently which are in the state of expiring, and from here you need to renew this particular certificate. So how will you check that?
serial number, click on I and match that.
Yep. So there are multiple ways. One is from the Intune portal. You can use the subject ID and the serial number to match it with the same certificate on the Apple push certificate console. And the other way is that if you have a enrolled device, from the device itself, if you go to general, uh, the topic that you see under the management profile is basically the subject ID of the certificate. So that is also a way you can match the certificate.
okay.
Now that we have APNS configured, we can talk about the different modes of management that is possible for iOS or iPadOS devices with Intune. So what are the different ways we can manage an Apple device with Intune? You guys are working guys. You should answer it.
So through
O-
Intune and also Apple Business Manager, so that is what your modes.
Okay, the first way we can manage iOS or iPadOS device is the MAM only way.
Yeah, correct.
We don't do device management, we only manage the application. So data protection is at the application level, device is unmanaged. The next mode of management is user enrollment, where user initiates the enrollment via downloading and installing company portal on the application. Uh, this mode of enrollment gives us limited MDM capabilities because in iOS we have something that is called as the supervised mode, and supervised mode is not available on user enrolled devices. So this basically you can also use managed Apple IDs in Apple Business Manager using federation with Azure AD to do a user enrollment. But that is something you will need to set up. Then there is device enrollment. This is also user initiated enrollment via company portal, and this gives you the full range of MDM capabilities. And the last is the automated device enrollment, which comes from the Apple Business Manager with the supervised modes capabilities. So of these four modes that I told you, MAM only, user enrollment, device enrollment, and automated device enrollment. User enrollment and automated device enrollment happens via Apple Business Manager. And if I have to categorize these modes of management into BYOD and corporate owned, then this three falls under the BYOD category, whereas automated device enrollment is always a corporate owned device scheme. But for some criteria, like if you have corporate device identifiers, uh, like you have CDIs imported into Intune, then device enrollment can also become a corporate owned device scheme. Any questions or is this clear? I will take that as clear and we'll move forward. So we have basically this BYOD scheme as well as the corporate owned scheme to enroll devices. So when we plan to roll out an Apple management in the environment, how do we plan it? Which mode should we use? So this is how the planning works out. So the first question that comes is, do I require a supervised device or not? If I require a supervised device, then the question comes is Apple Business Manager available? ADE stands for Automated Device Enrollment, and automated device enrollment can happen only via Apple Business Manager. So the question comes is Apple Business Manager available or not? If Apple Business Manager is available, then the next question that we need to answer is, do we need user affinity or not? If definitely we need user affinity, then it will be a user driven automated device enrollment. If we do not need a user affinity, then it will be a userless automated device enrollment. The next question like is if ADE is not available, like Apple Business Manager is not available, then we come to Apple Configurator, because Apple Configurator can also configure devices, upload it to Apple Business Manager and function as Apple Business Manager in some cases. And in here, it again goes to user affinity, like whether you want user affinity or not. If you want user affinity, then it can be a setup assistant enrollment. If you do not want user affinity, then it can be a direct enrollment. Now, on this side of the screen, then if the first question like you need supervised or not, if that is no, then the next question is that come is, will the device be of shared use? If yes, then you can enroll it with the device enrollment manager. If the device is not for shared use, then the question is the device a BYOD device? If the question is yes, then the next question comes is, does you like do you require MDM? If yes, again like do you require full MDM? Then yes, you do the device enrollment. If you do not require full MDM, then you do user enrollment, but this is again subject to the availability of ABM. If ABM is not available, then this option is not available for you. Similarly, if you do not require MDM, then you can do a MAM only. And just like this, that is how the entire planning works out. Clear?
So what is the exact role of Apple configurator, Joy, here? If in ADA, it's not required.
If AD is not available,
Okay,
but you require a supervised device. See, the question comes is you require a supervised device,
correct. Mm.
but AD is not available.
Okay,
The only option that you can have a device supervised then is with the help of Apple configurator. And Apple configurator, you get these two modes of enrollment.
okay.
So, any other questions? No questions. Okay.
So Joy, one question I have, like supervision, like mean supervised, is a yes or
Mhm.
no? Okay, so if I enroll the device, iOS is fully MDM. I means I install company portal and I install the APN certificate. Everything is enrolled in the Intune itself. So I can do this remote wipe and I can able to do the all policies push and everything from the fully MDM devices. But what
Mhm.
exactly ADA will do, which full MDM will not perform, Joy. It comes to super.
Automated device enrollment will enforce the enrollment as soon like you take the device out of the box, you power it on, you connect it to a network. The device will recognize that it is an organization device and it will, from there itself, it will start the enrollment. Whereas a non-ADE device, a non-ABM device, you will have to first set it up with your personal Apple ID,
Hmm.
then use the App Store to download the company portal, and then using company portal, you will have to enroll it yourself. So
Okay,
that is why a company portal enrollment is considered as a BYOD enrollment because you are enrolling your personal device, whereas a ADE enrollment is treated as a corporate enrollment because it enforces the enrollment out of the box.
I understood, sir.
The second thing is uh, a lot of settings that you get within the profiles for Apple devices is only applicable if the device is supervised. So you cannot in like if you want to configure a policy in Intune, uh, let's go. Device restriction I pick because that is the most basic thing that everyone will do. If you look into this, then there will be categories of settings in there. So this particular settings, whatever you see in up to here, it works for all enrollment types. So whether you enroll it as a BYOD or you enroll it through ADE, whatever that we discussed. So this will work. But then this particular group of settings will only work on a device that is enrolled as a device enrollment or a automated device enrollment. Then there is this particular category of settings that will only work on automated device enrollment. So if you have a requirement to block the app store and you have a device that is enrolled using the company portal normal by the user, you won't be able to block the app store on the device.
Okay,
So That is how, so that is why I showed you this planning. How you plan your iOS enrollment. What are your requirements? So you have to think of Apple as like, see, Apple is a closed ecosystem. It's how Apple wants you to play is how you will have to play. So not everything is available for every enrollment type, like in the case of Windows or Android.
Understood, sir.
Okay, so this is Apple. I will not go into enrollment today. Enrollment we will cover next day. Uh, but for Apple, yeah. Saurav, you got any contact for that Apple Business Manager account?
That Wojciech is uh, is on leave till 16th of August. Hubert is not responding. Seems either he left the organization, but because his
No,
ID is
what his ID shows as external, right?
yes external but unknown. Why?
That is because Poland separated itself as a separate ATOS entity
Hmm,
to give tax relaxation to their Poland employees.
okay,
So it is not part of Atos Global anymore. It is a separate Atos entity. So that is
local
why
one.
they will come as a external thing in here.
Okay.
Okay.
So he
So
responded what
mm,
I okay, you already have that access.
mm, so this is the Poland Atos ABM instance. So
Roman is there.
like
I can
you
ask
can
to
go to
Roman.
Roman, you can go to Roman,
Hmm.
Wojciech or like Hubert.
Wojciech or
These
GK.
two won't like this guy won't be able to help you because he is not an administrator. He is just a device enrollment manager.
Okay, okay, okay.
But
Roman, I can
if you like ask me, I can also create an account for you. But मैं अभी इस पे कुछ काम करता नहीं.
नहीं 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 कुछ कर नहीं करते हो तो एक काम करो रोमन को बोलो ना तुम
नहीं.
रोमन विल वुड प्रोवाइड
तो
तुम
इस
बोलोगे तो एक अलग वेटेज जाएगा आई कैन
नहीं
टॉक
इस हाँ हाँ क्यों नहीं. इस टेनेंट पे तीन ही लोकेशन है. एटॉस ग्लोबल का ये जो डिलीवरी सेंटर पोलास का, और ह्यूबर्ट मैस्लो, वो ह्यूबर्ट का टेनेंट इस पे कनेक्टेड है और मेरा टेनेंट इस पे कनेक्टेड है.
ओके ओके यू क्रिएटेड टोकन
इसमें शायद अभी भी मेरा आईपैड, हाँ मेरा आईपैड अभी भी इसी में है.
ठीक है
मैं इसको अच्छा याद दिला, इसको रिलीज फ्रॉम ऑर्गेनाइजेशन.
मैं ये मंडे को बात करता हूँ रोमन से
ठीक है. तो
अगर नॉक्स का
नेक्स्ट डे.
एक्सेस नॉक्स का एक्सेस है मेरे पास बट वी कैन नॉट रिकॉर्डिंग दैट सेशन ओके
हाँ हाँ ठीक, उतना नहीं चाहिए, बस इतना ही. ठीक है, ये तो टुडे वी विल क्लोज इट हियर. नेक्स्ट डे एक्चुअली वो एप्पल एनरोलमेंट और ये एप्पल बिजनेस मैनेजर पे जाएंगे. मैंने सोचा था आज कंप्लीट कर देंगे, बट वो बेसिक्स पार्ट्स वो थोड़ा बहुत रह गए थे. तो उसको कंप्लीट करके वी शुड गो पार्ट बाय पार्ट. किसी को इनकम्प्लीट छोड़ के नहीं जाना है.
जॉय बोल रहा था ये जो एप्पल बिजनेस मैनेजर है ये खाली ऑटोमेटेड डिवाइस एनरोलमेंट के लिए यूज होता है.
हाँ,
अच्छा
वीपीपी एप्लीकेशंस के लिए भी.
अच्छा. और ब्रिंग योर ओन डिवाइस का जो कंसेप्ट है तो वो पूरा हम लोग का इंट्यून पोर्टल से ही मैनेज होगा.
हाँ
राइट. ठीक है.
जो एक काम करना, अपनी आईडी पे क्लिक करना, लेफ्ट में प्रेफरेंस में जाना, सिर्फ चेक करना है कि एग्रीमेंट ये अभी लेटेस्ट वाला जो कंटेंट
मैंने
वाला
कल ही
है।
किया है, मैंने कल ही
ओके
किया है।
ओके। सो वो अभी अगर तुरंत करते हैं तो आएगा नहीं। आई बिलीव वी नीड टू वेट फॉर 12 आवर्स।
एग्रीमेंट का मैं दूसरे में साइन इन करता हूँ ना, रुको इससे लॉग आउट करता हूँ, उसमें आना चाहिए।
एंड वी विल लॉक टिकट विद एप्पल एंड माइक्रोसॉफ्ट।
क्यों?
क्योंकि जो इंटर्न पोर्टल पे है ना, एक्सेप्ट नहीं किया बंदे ने और वहां पर सिंक डिसेबल हो गया है।
इतने सारे एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर्स है, कोई एक भी अगर एक्सेप्ट कर लेता है तो वो तो चलता है।
वो हाँ, तो नहीं किया ना किसी ने। 28 को किया है, 29 को करना था, सॉरी 27 को करना था, बंदों ने 28 को किया है। सो इंट्यून, अगर इंट्यून पोर्टल पे तुम देखो, अगर तुम्हारा भी आज किया होगा तो तुम्हारा इंट्यून पोर्टल पे फिर सिंक नहीं दिखा रहा होगा।
ने इसमें तो शायद बोगदन ने कर दिया,
फिर
इसमें नहीं आ रहा है, इसमें शायद बोगदन ने कर दिया, क्योंकि ये वाला तुम्हारा हम लोग का मतलब ये अटॉस का ग्लोबल का है।
ओके, मैं जीआईटी और होगा,
हाँ जीआईटी का।
इसमें मैक भी है।
हाँ ये सिर्फ अटॉस इंटरनेशनल का है, इसमें तुम्हारा हाँ है ना, मैक है। ये मैक के लिए तो काम चल रहा है, क्योंकि अभी अटॉस में तुम्हारा मैक का भी रोल आउट होगा।
ओके।
एम्प्लॉयज को मैक मिलेगा, मैक हम लोग को नहीं मिलेगा। नहीं हम लोग
अच्छा
को नहीं
जॉय,
मिलेगा क्या,
आज का
हमको तो
ट्रेनिंग
मिला।
खत्म हुआ है क्या?
हाँ आज का खत्म हो गया।
यू कैन
आज
स्टॉप
मैं
द
रिकॉर्डिंग
रिकॉर्डिंग।
बंद करता हूँ।
अच्छा ठीक है जॉय, तो देन आई विल जॉइन द नेक्स्ट मीटिंग probably